Now, one of the things that kind of started this for me was I had heard that rich people all have 7 streams of income. Have you heard this? Have you, right?
Yep.
But what they don't tell you is that it's not 7 streams of income that you're active in.
Right.
It's 7 streams of income that you have a vision for and you oversee, but you have other people running those different things, right?
Welcome to the Legacy in the Making show. I'm your host, LA's foremost success coach, Maree Torrey. I interview leaders and influencers who've gone beyond the superficial markers of success and claimed true fulfillment by leveraging their positions to create positive and profitable changes in their businesses and beyond. They share their stories and offer real-world, boots-on-the-ground experience that translates into practical advice to apply to your own journey. I invite you to this injection of wisdom and inspiration so you can prevail and leave your own lasting legacy. Well, hello, I'm Maree Torrey, LA's foremost success coach, and you are listening to the Legacy in the Making show. I'm very pleased to introduce you to the amazing Moneeka Sawyer. Moneeka Sawyer is the Blissful Millionaire. Does it get any better than that? Seriously. She reached her financial freedom by turning $10,000 into over $2 million, working only 5 to 10 hours per month with very little stress. No wonder, Moneeka, you are so blissful. And now what she is on a mission to do is to help as many other women as she can do the same thing. One of the ways in which she does this is she hosts a top-rated podcast show called Real Estate Investing for Women and has interviewed some really prestigious guests such as Lisa Gibbons, Dr. Joe Vitale, Hal Elrod, and me. I feel quite honored to be in such highfalutin company. Moneeka has also featured on stages with Suzanne Summers, Martha Stewart, Iced Tea and Cocoa, and places like the NASDAQ Marketplace, Harvard, Carnegie Hall, and on TV such as NBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox, reaching over 150 million people. Wow. I feel like funny. The little Chinese, those little Chinese happy money cat things. That's what I'm doing now, the happy money cat dance.
It's so funny when people read, I don't know if you have this experience too, Tony, is when people read your bio, you're like, is that me? So funny, but thank you.
Yeah, many years ago, when I was still evolving as a coach, I was working with a marketing trainer and he was teaching us to do our bio. And I'm like, I don't think I've done anything special. And he's like, okay, well, kind of like walk me through some of the things that you've achieved in your life. And like, by the time it all came out, I was in a classroom environment at the time. By the time it all came out, it was just like, they're like, yeah, you were just putting on false modesty then. And it's like, no, really, I wasn't. I really didn't. Because I don't think we do we? We don't. Tend to, we just get on with our lives. We're just out there doing our thing. Yeah, we're just doing our thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Moneeka, it's so lovely to have you here today. And the kinds of folks that we're talking to are people that are looking to evolve into creating success beyond the traditional markers of success. And I think that you have done an amazing job of that because you've achieved a lot. And you're super efficient and you're all about bliss. And you have this amazing lifestyle that many of us aspire to. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how it is that your story evolved.
Oh, that's such a wide open question. So I'll try to keep this short. Let's focus on the real estate piece because that's kind of the business piece of this. And so my journey in real estate started when my parents came to this country as immigrants with only $200 in their pocket.
Wow.
And they had heard, and you know this story, right? Because you're an immigrant too.
Yes, and it was not dissimilar for me. I kind of say I came with nothing but a backpack.
That's right.
I had some cash in my pocket, but not a lot.
Not a lot, right? And so they came, and they had heard that the golden ticket to wealth in the United States was to buy real estate. This is something we can do here in the United States that we can't do in the same way anywhere else in the world, and get so much support around that. By the government and by society and all of that stuff. And they decided that they were going to buy real estate so that they could give me the life that they wanted me to have. And so they stayed really focused on that goal. And fast forward 15 years, now I'm 18, and they paid for my college education through real estate. Yeah. Then they did the same for my two other sisters. They paid for our weddings, and now they have this amazing retired lifestyle. So I had seen my whole life what real estate could do and what being in business for yourself could do, right? But on the other hand, my mom was a doctor, my dad was an engineer, so real estate was their side hustle. And so I went and got my college education and was going to follow that normal path to success, right? I went to UC Berkeley. I was going to go into corporate and did that, and within a year realized that was not for me.
It's a hard life, the corporate life.
It is. But it also, that corporate life is also part of what you talk about, that idea of what success looks like, right? We think we need to get the education, climb the corporate ladder, or, whatever it is. And that's what success looks like. You make a ton of money, you buy a nice house, you have a nice car, you get married. There's this whole thing about what life is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Well, a year out of college, I realized this is not for me. And I was scared out of my mind.
It is a scary prospect, thinking about letting go of that umbilical cord.
Exactly. And so I was sitting with my dad one evening over the dinner table, and I had seen what real estate could do for us, but I had also seen the level of stress that it caused for my dad. He said, Moneeka, everybody has stress, everybody has fear, and everybody has money problems. Do you want poor people money problems, or do you want rich people money problems? And so I made that decision that I was going to have rich people money, and then we were going to get rid of the problems, right? And so
I love the way you think.
And so I focused on this path of bliss. But here's the thing that I discovered. I realized that real estate, like any business, is going to be a long-term game. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. So it was going to be in my life for a very long time. Well, if it was going to be in my life for a very long time, it needed to make me happy. I was not going to be miserable. And so that's why I focus so much on my business about creating it in a blissful way, which simply means that it supports the joy in my life through the whole process, not just to when I get to the end result, right? So I can enjoy the entire journey, rather than having this business take everything, like suck the life out of me, like it does for so many people. Yeah. So that's kind of how that focus happened and why I built the business the way that I did.
So what do you think it was that was different about you, Moneeka, that helped you get to that place so early in life and let go of what I call the push mentality and start creating from ease and flow? I mean, it's what I work with my clients on all the time. And, you and I, we know Reed Goosen's in common. And one of the things that Reed says is that before he started working with me, he actually thought that success was having 6 plates spinning all at once and going through like the total hustle and the push. And, he's someone with a lot of energy. And so he was able to maintain that for a fair amount of time until eventually it started wearing on him. So what do you think it was that helped you understand that that was not the road to travel?
So I'll be really candid. I am the person that loves to have 6 plates roll, like spinning at all times, because I'm also very high energy. And so I have to kind of rein that in, because we can't live a truly blissful life and really have the time freedom and the emotional freedom and the mental freedom and the focus on a successful business if we've got all these things going. Now, one of the things that kind of started this for me was I had heard that rich people all have 7 streams of income. Have you heard this? Right?
Yep.
But what they don't tell you is that it's not 7 streams of income that you're active in.
Right.
It's 7 streams of income that you have a vision for and you oversee, but you have other people running those different things, right? So, but as a young woman, I thought, oh, I've got to have 7 streams of income. And so now I'm out there, right? Whatever. And so, but the thing is that I learned very, very quickly that was going to exhaust me.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not want that life. And so I got a coach, and he started to explain to me the sort of 7 streams of income, right? And what that really looks like. And so what I ended up doing is taking these, loving to have the 6 plate spinning, and creating those in different areas of my life. So instead of having everything focused on my business and having all this business chaos, I could now focus on, I have a lot of energy. I like to have different projects so I can switch my focus around. I like variety. But instead of having them all in my business, I could now have them. So I had my disc spinning in my relationship, in my health and diet or exercise. I was a professional dancer, right? So I had that going. So I had my investments going. I had my real estate going. So I had the joy of having the many spinning plates without the chaos. Instead, I was able to put it together to create a balanced life in sort of a weird backwards way. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. Exactly what came into my mind was, the coaching principle. I'm sure you've probably seen like the pie chart with all the aspects of our lives, relationship, health and well-being, our spiritual life, our business, our home environment. All those things are all pieces of the pie that create a balanced life. And as you were saying it before you said it, I immediately went to, oh, she's really been building a balanced life.
Yes.
And I love that, because that's a lot of the work that I do. Many of my clients do come to me because they're starting to see cracks turn into canyons. They're starting to, they've had that youthful exuberance, and this is an Australian saying, we talk about running on the smell of an oily rag, right? where you run on the fumes, and you can only run on fumes for so long. So most people come to the realization that you came to when they've started really feeling the consequences. It sounds like you're a pretty smart cookie, and you got there ahead of most of the rest of us. I certainly have my burnout story for me, the burnout culminated in a panic attack on the freeway where I nearly wiped myself and other people out. And so that was a really huge wake-up call for me that I needed to start doing life differently. Moneeka, if you were sitting in a room in front of a bunch of founding CEOs, obviously for you it's about women sitting with a group of women who are ambitious, have reached a certain level of success, but are looking to take things in their lives and their businesses to the next level, what would you share with them that you can share with us today?
Keep learning. Keep learning and keep taking action. I think what happens with success is that we get complacent. We rest on our laurels. I know how to do that. I've done that before. I'm smart. We are smart, right? But if you go into every day knowing that you're smart and that you know how to do everything, you don't leave the door open for the next opportunities. Growth can't happen without new opportunities. And those new opportunities come from allowing for them, looking for them, and being open to them. So going into each new day with that beginner's mind and really looking for the things that you don't know. It doesn't mean that you're not smart. It just means that you don't know that. And if you don't know that, there's a new opportunity for you. And I used to coach executives all the time. And that was one of the things I had to keep reminding them. They would say, well, I've heard that before. That's great that you've heard that before. Have you implemented that? Have you taken it on? Is it in your heart, or is it that, oh, I've heard that before, that doesn't work for me? Well, how do you know? there's two big things about that. First of all, have you implemented it? And today you're in a different place than when you heard it last time. Could it affect you differently? Right?
That's really true. And how do you embody that knowledge? So it shifts from knowledge to wisdom.
Exactly. Yeah. And we will never be done. If you want to be truly satisfied in life, you will never be done. So no matter how successful you are today, there's an opportunity for even more growth, even more expansion, and even more opportunity.
And where are you focusing your growth and opportunity at the moment?
Such an interesting question, because I've been thinking about this all weekend, like such a prime time to be talking about this. So I have gotten to that point where I can retire. And, we've been so fortunate, our business has done phenomenally well. My husband has a really great job. So we're able to support each other in a lot of different ways. And so I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, do I want to continue to work and hustle? Or is it time to transition now into retirement and travel? Like, where do we want to be in this, like the big picture of life, And David and I have been talking about, we'll retire in about 5 years. Well, 5 years, actually, then it requires a plan. And I'm so used to being in business and loving the work and loving the message and loving getting my voice out there and all the things that we get to do in business, that I haven't focused on the plan. And so right now I'm kind of in this interesting transition, I'm so blessed. I'm 50 years old and I get to talk about this. Like, this is amazing.
That is amazing.
Right?
And not only because you're 50, but because you look like you're 30.
Thank you. It's a bliss factor.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, sorry, I just have to jump in there for a second. I do this body of energy work with my clients, yes. And it works on their energetic field, for want of a better word. And we jokingly call it a field facelift, because people always look younger once they, it's just to do with kind of letting go of things that we've got stored up in ourselves, right? And it's hysterical because people do that. It takes 10 years off that bliss,
almost instantaneously.
We're not carrying our stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I need to find out more about that. We've talked about that a couple times. I need to find out more.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my journey now, is really, and this is what I was saying about, learning about the next level. For me, the next level may not be business. For me, the next level may be full on living life. But I'm in that point of transition. Like, what does full on living life look like? I feel like I've been doing that so far.
Yeah.
But it's starting to look different to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, maybe it's time to start a movement as opposed to a business. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about all the things that are going amazingly well for you. Let's talk a little bit about a challenge you've experienced. Like, was there a time when you really were butting your head against something? And what did you do with that setback, and how did you overcome it?
So I've had a lot of setbacks personally and also business-wise. In this show, I'll talk about sort of the big business setback. But in 2008, I bought $1 million home in October.
Oh, wow.
And
I know what that means.
Exactly. Oh, my goodness. Within 6 months, it was worth only $500,000. So I had lost $500,000 in 6 months. And then my husband lost his job.
Oh, wow.
So I was like so many other people out there, this house that was seriously underwater. I had a ton of property at the time, and all of it was, like
dwindling
really
in value.
Yeah. And so I kind of had to decide, like, was I going to sell this thing and just get rid of it like everybody else was doing? Was I going to freak out? And I was freaking out. Could you imagine? I mean, how many people did this, right? You watch that price go down. You keep thinking it's going to turn and it never turned.
Yeah.
Right?
And just that fear. Super lucky and made it through because I was investing actively between 2006 and 2008. And our last property was when my husband, after we finally sold that, because we were doing a lot of fix and flips at the time, which was super fun. And speaking of being in alignment with your bliss, like for me, it's all about potential, right? Whether it's human potential or the potential of a home. Right. And so that was like, I loved doing it. And the last one that it took us a while to sell because things were tricky. And I actually had very good instincts around profitability. And so we still made money on it, but it just took us longer to offload it. And he just said to me, never again. He's like, I'm never doing this again. It was a stressful time for people.
It was a really stressful time. And you're really lucky because so many people got badly burned, especially if you were doing something that quick as flipping.
Right.
Flippers and wholesalers, they were kind of like, or construction. There was a lot of.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, though, it was just a house. And so David got a new job. He took about a 30% pay cut. So we took a huge pay cut. We could no longer afford our home. And so instead of like being with the masses and completely freaking out, I engaged my bliss practices, right? And I remembered a saying by Warren Buffett. He says, if you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your money.
It's really true.
So I grounded myself. We took a deep breath, swallowed our pride, rented out my dream home. And then we moved into a little dump that we could afford. I mean, it literally, you walked in there, it smelled like dog pee and wet fur.
Right.
Everything
it was a fixer for sure.
It was it should have been a tear down, except that it was a townhouse. So you couldn't. I mean, it was horrible. So, but that was the opportunity of the time. That's what we could do. I didn't want to rent. And so we fixed it up. I lived there, and then we came out of it. We moved back into the dream home, which is where I live now. Everything had appreciated. So we actually made quite a lot of money. But it was really understanding that markets cycle, businesses have challenges, and you need to stay grounded and rational rather than making emotional decisions.
Right. It's so important. It's one of the reasons why some of the foundational work I do with my people is getting them in touch with their purpose, because that is and getting them in touch with it in a way that it becomes extremely memorable and it really sinks into the subconscious. And so then that becomes the foundation that allows you to weather the ups and downs and stay in alignment with who you truly are. And then, anything is possible. And I believe that the universe, for want of a better word, rewards those of us who stay true to ourselves and to our authenticity, regardless of what's going on in the circumstances around us.
I absolutely agree with you on that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy.
No.
Either.
Oh, no.
I mean, sometimes it can be really, really, really hard. But if it's hard, but it's aligned with you, it still moves you forward. It's still worth it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I totally know what you mean. And you may not even like when you've made a decision based on your deepest knowing and your values and your vision, it's not a guarantee that you will like the results that you get immediately.
That's true.
But it's still better than making a decision from fear and not liking the results you get.
That's right. And you're more likely to get a result that you do like if you do it based on your values and your vision, rather than if you make decisions based on fear, you almost always end up on the other side unhappy with the result.
Yeah, I love that. So the Legacy in the Making show was pulled together really out of an inspiration for me, because I believe that we can change the world through business and or movements. Like obviously you're thinking about transitioning into something slightly different that isn't necessarily the same as what you've been doing before. But I still believe that this is how we change the world. And so if you were to identify a problem in the world that really bothers you, that you would want to have, we can't always solve all the problems in our lifetime, but we can contribute to the solution, or we can get the ball rolling for other people to take up the baton. For you, Moneeka, what would that be?
So I lived in India as an exchange student when I was 16. And one of the things that really horrified me was how women were treated there. And I saw women my age, girls my age or younger, who were married off into arranged marriages to much older men. They never had any choices. I saw women getting beaten. I heard people screaming. I mean, the horrors of being a female in so many parts of the world. And I decided right then that was not going to be my life, first of all. But the other piece was that I needed to figure out a way to help. And so one of the things that I realized over time was one of the biggest factors in the uplifting of all people, including women, is education. Like if you educate people, they are able to create a different life for themselves. So I became very committed to the education of girls in India. So even at the age of 16, I started donating $10 a month to a school in India that supported the education of girls, and have been doing that ever since. So now I'm heavily involved with a school in India in one of the villages, and now they educate like for 100 miles around. So I'm very, very involved with that. But that journey started when I was 16. Now at 50, it looks completely different. It's a lot more than $10 a month, right? I did a documentary. I mean, I'm really involved in that. But that's the kind of thing that really revs me up. It's like really empowering women. You know that I'm all about empowering women, but really empowering women all over the world. And India, of course, is close to my heart because I'm Indian. So
I love that. Tell us about your documentary. What's the name of it? And is it possible for us to see it anywhere?
Yeah, it's called The School of Hope. And you can actually see it so I have two websites. There's blissfulinvestor.com, which is my main real estate one. But then there's also coreblisslife.com, Core Bliss Life. And on there, if you go to the tab that says my work in the world, I think it is, you can actually see the documentary there. It's really fun.
Oh, that's fantastic. I would love to see that. I will certainly be going to coreblisslife.com to watch that documentary. How amazing that you've done something so formidable as to just bringing it to life for people. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Moneeka,
such a pleasure.
And this has just been such a great conversation with you. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to share with the Legacy in the Making Show audience today?
Yes. I like to close every show with this. Always remember, goals without action are just dreams. So get out there, take action, and create the life your heart deeply desires.
I'm glad you tuned in to the Legacy in the Making Show. If you're genuinely interested in creating positive change in your business or your life or on a more global scale, I invite you to connect with me at TonyMaree.com. That's Tony with a Y, Maree with 2 E's. When you get there, you'll find the Path to Purpose Master Plan, the truly brilliant method to make sure you're clear on why you're here. This is the absolute critical foundation to honing your instincts and leaving a legacy you'll be proud of. You can also find out about the Innate Wisdom Business Council, which is an opportunity to evolve your vision in the company of like-minded leaders, and much, much more. Thanks for listening. Remember to subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you next time.